My wife's little sister gave me a BJ. I, 29 male, live in the north, and I'm a rural farm credit specialist. I drive a lot, especially in the summer. Last summer, I was doing a few days of driving 8 to 4 hours as I was going to appraise various properties, and a few other things. I have a very large territory. My wife, 26 female, has a large family with 5 kids total. 1 older sister and 3 younger. 2 sisters, Claire 17 and Ellie 19, and 1 brother, Adam 16. The 2 youngest were doing school at home because of COVID, and the older 19 was at home because her job had slowed down a ton. My brother-in-law wanted to come with me to get driving practice and to pass the long boring days, so I'd invite him on a couple trips. We'd head out in the morning and spend a few hours talking sports and music. After a couple of times, the girls asked if they could come too, and I didn't see a problem, so they started coming along. We did 2 trips with all of us, and then 1 trip where Adam didn't come. He had a test that required him to be home for a certain time. It wasn't a problem. We listened to the music and talked. It was a fairly short trip. They didn't come for a while after that until Ellie messaged me after hearing I was going on a 7-ish hour drive and asked if she could join me for that drive. I agreed. When I went to pick her up, only Ellie came out. She said that Claire had slept in and Adam wasn't feeling well. I felt weird taking just her, but it's very nice having someone in the car, so I did. The first couple of hours were normal, but after a while, she started asking heavy questions. She admitted to being lonely, and she was asking questions about my relationship. I was kind of enjoying the attention. We wound up discussing how I like pleasuring women, but my wife doesn't like BJs. Obviously, this topic left the car a little tense. She then mentioned she liked giving BJs, and she hadn't hooked up for a really long time. We kind of stopped talking for a while, but I guess we could tell we were both really turned on. Eventually, she raised the middle seat console, 6-seat pickup, and laid down to rest. We both knew what we were doing. She laid her head on my lap and my right arm under her head. As you can imagine, things got real spicy, and it was the best BJ I could remember. We kissed a bit, then we drove somewhere we could turn off the road. Then we really went to town. I leaned her head back and started to explore with my hands. She was quite slim and has large honkers, which was a huge turn on since my wife was quite small. I was able to return the favor that I received. Then we were done. We kissed for a minute and then cleaned up. We didn't talk for a bit other than saying how much we both needed that. We agreed not to talk about it, but also not to do it all the time. At the end of the summer, she moved away and our escapades ended entirely. I'm not gonna lie to you, I omitted a lot from this confession because it seemed like it came from the hub. This situation sounds amazing if you were single, but at the end of the day, the dude was married and was hooking up with his sister-in-law behind his wife's back. Also, it seems like it happened more than once, so I would have to say this dude is a jerk. I'm still in love with my ex from 15 years ago. I'm still in love with the first girl I ever fell in love with. She was perfect. We were compatible in every single way. Life happened and I listened to the wrong voices and I broke up with her over events that, as I'm looking back on it now, ultimately weren't deal breakers. Live and learn, I guess. She was my everything. We were completely in love and it was very, very real and pure. I gave her my heart. She was the only woman to ever have my whole heart, as everyone since, sadly including my wife, only have the fragmented version left over after my love for her. Should life's journey cross our paths again, I'm terrified that I would succumb to her allure and she would have my heart again in full. No human on this planet has or ever will be able to measure up to my ex. She was physically completely perfect. Tall, dark flowing hair that cascaded over her slender, feminine shoulders, eyes that were windows into her soul and reflected my heart with every sparkle, a smile perfectly crooked and totally intoxicating. Her lips were everything poems and love songs described, honey sweet and able to transport me to new dimensions. Her arms would draw me into her embrace and her touch could recharge me in an instant. Not a hair, freckle, or imperfection was out of place on her body. I'll save how I felt about the rest of her physically for my private thoughts. Just know, I don't love anyone the same way. She was artsy, quirky, and fun. Our chemistry was 100% on point. Think Jim and Pam from The Office. We were absolutely and ridiculously good for each other. It is a fairy tale, but it's gone. I have a wife and kid. I love my life with them, but something is always missing. I feel awful because they deserve all of me. They're beautiful and they should get all of my love, but I'm scarred for life over my ex. If I ever ran into my ex, or if we ever reconnected, I would be unable to resist her. I've acknowledged the fact that I've even considered leaving everything in my life for her. I just needed to get this off my chest. First off, this dude is madly in love with his ex. The way he wrote about her is something out of a storybook. I can't say I relate to this OP, I don't have a wife or kids, and I can't say that I've ever longed for an ex after getting into a new relationship. Maybe they should try talking to a therapist because I think his family at least deserves him trying to give his all instead of fantasizing about his ex. I get PTSD whenever I hear Katy Perry. When I was a preteen, my stepsister, who was 16 at the time, chased me through our house, pinned me down, and sat on my head and farted. While this was happening, Katy Perry's Last Friday Night was playing on the radio. To this day, I can't hear any Katy Perry song without thinking of that traumatic moment. I have no opinion on this, I just wanted to share this with you guys because I thought it was funny. I wish I had more hookups before I settled. I had my first child at 18, and I've been with the same guy ever since. I'm in my mid-40s now, and we have 3 grown kids. I still think about making out or hooking up with others that are not my significant other. I miss that feeling of a racing heart, the anticipation, the tingly feelings, and the butterflies in my stomach. I love my partner, but to be honest, I only said yes because my insecurities got the best of me and I thought no other guys would be interested. My love has grown for him over time. I'm afraid to lose him, and yes, part of it is due to safety and convenience. I have major insecurity issues, especially with my looks. When someone looks my way, especially good-looking ones or from different races, I never believed it. I got intimidated, thinking these guys were too good to be true. I still try to be intimate with my husband, but I miss the spark. Now hooking up feels more like a chore. I'm ashamed to admit that cheating has crossed my mind. I will never go through with it, physically at least. I've already hooked up mentally and emotionally. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I was hoping posting here would be cathartic and will help me alleviate these thoughts. But am I a jerk? I heavily relate to this OP here. When I was in my early 20s, I dated this woman for 5 years. We talked about getting married, but I often thought about what it would be like to hook up with other women since I had not. Now, 10 years later, I'm so glad that I never got married because I feel like I would probably be in the same boat as this OP. I don't think this OP is a jerk. I think this is a very human emotion, but the moment she were to physically cheat, that's when she becomes the jerk. The amount of people who believe we live in a computer simulation makes me lose hope for humanity. These people actually believe that lines of code can spontaneously morph into living, breathing, self-conscious organisms. Whenever they play video games, they think whenever they see a nice beach in their game, there must be a beach inside the computer. When I was 3 years old, I used to believe that people on TV were actually trapped inside the TV set. Then I grew out of it. I'm tired of seeing articles on it. People are so out of touch with reality that there's now this whole religion based around everyone not being real. And to me, that's a dangerous mindset. If you don't believe me, look up how many people have murdered other people because they believed they're in the Matrix, and they thought that murdering somebody would allow them to break out of it. This isn't a harmless belief. It's on the level of believing that the earth is flat, except flat earthers are usually a goofy bunch. I've never heard of a flat earther murdering anyone due to his or her beliefs. I've been in programming for 15 years. Computer game characters aren't alive. They are literally just pixels on a screen told to light up in a certain way by computer code. That's it. They don't have anything that makes them alive. Blood, brain, metabolism, cells. They don't have any of those things. Thinking a video game character can be conscious and alive is like thinking a book can be conscious or alive. If you seriously think they are, you need to get a checkup from the neck up. Western society is collectively going mad and denying reality, while China just made an artificial sun. I found this confession pretty interesting. I personally love having the discussion about the idea of living in a simulation, but by no means do I base my life around it. I do feel like this confession could apply to all religions and not just ones where you believe you're in a computer program. Also, I don't care if China's made an artificial sun. Let me know when they can make my anime waifu real. I went to a massage parlor and got a happy ending by accident. Obviously throwaway because I'm super embarrassed and I don't want my friends to know. I'm a male, 32, and I've never had a massage before. I pulled a muscle in my shoulder moving stuff over the weekend and someone said, "Oh, you should go get a massage." So I did some scouting and found a place. I made an appointment for an hour massage and went there. I was not expecting a happy ending. I didn't see anything that would indicate this service that was available. A very small Asian woman massaged me and it was amazing. It loosened up my shoulders and I felt so much better. However, while on my stomach, I started to get excited. In my defense, the massage felt amazing, she was very attractive, and I have been having a dry spell and haven't been with a woman for almost a year. I got super nervous and she told me to roll over. So I did, and I was pitching a very obvious tent under the talus she gave me to cover myself with. She giggled and I was red as a tomato. She rubbed my shoulders while I was excited, and after a little bit she stopped and was rubbing my thighs super close to it. It made me so excited that I was practically panting, and then she said in broken English, "Happy ending, $50?" I was so nervous, I didn't think I could speak, so I just nodded. She said, "You have 20 minutes left," but it only took 5 minutes and it was one of the most intense moments of my life. She cleaned me up, finished the rest of the massage by rubbing my thighs and legs, which were still twitching, and that was it. I paid up front and left a good tip. I'm super embarrassed and feel terrible that I paid for a woman to do that to me, and worse is I still feel tempted to go back soon or even regularly, as it's not nearly as expensive as I thought it would be. I've been feeling a lot of shame and post-nut clarity the last couple of days, but part of me really wants to go again. So this OP didn't drop the location, so that's a big L on his part. But in all seriousness, I can see why he might be a little embarrassed. Personally, I'd be more worried about it being illegal than being embarrassed. I'm assuming this is in America where SW is frowned upon, but I don't think the OP should feel ashamed for wanting to go back. No one has ever heard me fart. This might be silly, but my family strongly believes that I don't fart because I told them so. Not once has anyone ever heard me go pfft out of my bum. And it's all because I trained myself to have the quietest ones because of school. I trained myself ever since I gained consciousness because I never wanted anyone to hear it. But now I can control it and no one ever will. And for some reason, the universe plays along because no one has ever smelt it either. And to make things worse, or better, my sister claims that it smells like flowers. She actually might just mean that it doesn't smell like anything. Because when I get out of the bathroom, I don't even use air freshener. I will never tell anyone that I do fart because it's funny to see them believe that I simply don't. But hey, it's pretty practical for first dates, but if I ever get into a serious relationship, my partner might question my comfortableness with them. I love random stories like this. When I was younger, having someone hear me fart would be embarrassing, but now I think it would just be funny. This person, however, took this to a whole nother level. I don't know if I should applaud them or be embarrassed for them. I'm starting to hate my younger brother for being more attractive than me. Growing up, I was told that looks don't matter, and I believed it. I mean, I had to. I was an ugly duck in my family. I had bad acne since I was 13, with lots of hyperpigmentation, which made my skin look worse than it actually was. I was always short. I grew to about 5'8", 5'9" after freshman year of college, but I was 5'4" most of high school. And I had no special facial features, except maybe a decent jawline and okay eyebrows. But my younger brother was far better looking than me. In fact, everyone in my family. He was 6'1", had fair, clean skin and a strong jawline and high cheekbones, with blue eyes. None of my parents had colored eyes, and had an athletic build. While I did not notice it at the time, everyone treated him better. My parents bought him a Jeep for his 16th birthday, and both of my aunts would always take him anywhere they traveled to or ate out when we were younger. But things did get better for me during my college years. My acne cleared up and I started going to the gym, which made me lose a lot of fat on my face and brought out my angular features. I took care of myself by learning how to dress, changing my haircut, and eating a healthy diet. Most importantly, I grew confident in myself. I had other things going for me as well, like my schoolwork and at the time, a romantic relationship. I graduated from a top 20 university with no student debt, and I landed a nice job as a machine learning engineer at a startup EV company. By the time I had just started in my career, my brother had got a scholarship to run track at the local state university, but left the team after one semester due to a fallout with his coach. For the rest of the year, he did a few odd jobs from bouncing around from retail to construction to Amazon warehouse. Everything changed one night as he was working as a waiter. At one of his tables, a customer owned a modeling agency and asked him to come for a photo shoot. My brother showed up and has been booked for shoots ever since. In the beginning, I was genuinely happy for him. I mean, he turned his life around from where he was just a few months ago. It felt reassuring as an older brother that he was in a better place financially and emotionally. I was proud, but recently I've grown envious of how fast his career has taken off. After just 18 months, he has purchased his second house. It's not a crazy mansion, but it's a nice home in the upper $700K range. He drives a McLaren and eats at expensive restaurants on the weekends and takes vacations every other week. I'm thinking to myself, all that from just modeling? I don't know how to handle this because I am happy that he's doing well, but I'm just not sure he would be where he is today if it wasn't for his looks. I know this is solely an internal issue, one that I have to get over, but it hurts. I'm too embarrassed to tell my parents how I feel or any of my friends. I genuinely want to get over this feeling I have inside of me right now, because it's not healthy for me or my brother that I feel this way. This is a big oof. I relate to this OP because I grew up with middle child syndrome, so I always thought my parents or anyone for that matter cared more about my siblings than me. So I get the envious feeling. And also, I think everyone's had those same thoughts that prettier people have easier lives. We all think it. You can't just let your life be consumed by it. My parents are hooking up while I'm sleeping in the same room. I'm making this post because I'm curious what other people think about my situation, and I'm wondering if I should do something about it. I'm in a family of 4, my mother, my father, my brother, and then there's me. And occasionally our family will go on vacations together. These vacations usually have us sleeping in the same rented room. This is usually not an issue. We all get along enough to get through the whole vacation sharing the rented room. My problem comes with the 2 times that my parents hooked up in the room that we were sharing. Now I want to start off by saying that I have no problem with my parents hooking up, but it's a little weird when it's in the same room that your children are sleeping in. The first time was when I was young. I was around age 10 or 12. Our family went on a cruise. Because the cruise rooms are so expensive, what our family did was get a small compact one, which gave our parents a bed and me and my brother smaller beds, which were only separated by a curtain. One night, my parents came back to the room and me and my brother seemed asleep. I hadn't fallen asleep yet because I had been known to be a night owl. I had to sit through their intercourse and hear all the sounds. The second instance was much more recent. I'm age 18 now. My family went on a mini vacation to Atlantic City for my brother's volleyball tournament. One of the nights my parents came back to the room, which me and my brother were both in because there's not much for people under 21 to do in a casino. Well, my brother was in and out of sleep, but I was wide awake when they came back. As soon as they came back, they said they were tired and wanted to go to sleep. And I said, okay, fine. Because it was late and I was down to try to go to sleep even though I knew I wouldn't fall asleep for a good amount of time, like 30 to 60 minutes. We turn off the lights to go to sleep and it takes them about 10 minutes before they start hooking up. I hear this happening and I just sit there trying to ignore it and go to sleep. They must have known I could hear, but they decided to do it anyway. I found out later that their fun woke up my brother who was sleeping right next to me. We were both privately upset because the whole reason we were on this vacation was my brother's volleyball tournament, which he is now way more tired for. It was very easy to notice how tired he was. My parents even mentioned that he looked tired. So now I'm asking Reddit, should I bring this up to my parents or am I overstepping some line? What is your opinion? I don't think the OP would be overstepping in this situation. They are 18, they know what is going on, and this second time was a legitimate reason to be upset because it was hurting our brother's performance in sports. If anything, the OP should bring this up to their parents. If the parents say they're not gonna stop, well then at least tell them to get a separate room or buy them some noise-canceling headphones. So that's it for today's episode. Let me know your favorite story in the comment sections down below. Don't forget to follow on Spotify and hit that subscribe button if you want more content like this in the future.